Go. Well, hello there. Welcome to My Life as a Landlord. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Dr. Jen, and I am so excited for today's episode. I have an intriguing guest on the show today, and when he reached out to me, he sent 4 bullets that were talking points, and one of them was how to not work with a contractor. Well, for those of you who've been listening to the show, you know that I had to zoom in on that one. And along the way, I found this incredible story of overcoming all kinds of adversity and now a very successful self-managing landlord. And yeah, I'm excited to have him on the show today. Lots of lessons learned. Welcome, Wyatt Simon. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks. Now, okay, so Wyatt, I'm on Maui. It's been sunny with rain. Maui doesn't know what it wants to do today. What's going on in Nebraska? You just had some tornadoes. What's that all about?
Yeah, well, we're still here. We're still around. We had
Oh,
5 tornadoes touch base. What is it? 6 days ago. So we had a couple of properties impacted. We got lucky. There's some neighborhoods that are completely destroyed, and it's really humbling to see. But yeah, I was out there on Sunday helping out with the mess. Crazy.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, let's talk about real estate. You know, My Life as a Landlord is all about supporting landlords and in the real estate investment business, wherever they may be in that journey. Why did you get into real estate?
Well, I read a little book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which taught me that assets can generate you money while you sleep. And that sounded pretty good to me. The problem was I didn't have any money to buy assets because I read that when I was 21. And so I read that and I said, okay, what do I got to do to buy assets? Well, that was when I started learning about real estate, learning about creative finance strategies, and lo and behold, was able to build a portfolio in my 20s.
Fantastic. So let's talk about how you actually got started. Let's talk about the money part. How did you afford to get started in real estate?
So I didn't have any money. My parents didn't have any money, but they did have their house paid off in cash. And
Mm.
so I asked my parents and I said, hey, would you let me take a home equity line of credit out on your house to use it to buy real estate to generate cash? And they said, absolutely not. And so that was where my story stopped. And we're done here. No. So I didn't take no for an answer. I kept educating. I kept going to real estate events and meetup groups. And I was actually able to buy a duplex using a 3.5% loan, FHA loan to get started. And then in the meantime, I learned about that BRRRR strategy thing and I kept educating myself. And my parents finally said, okay, we think that BRRRR strategy makes sense. Let's go ahead and let you try it one time. And so we were able to take a line of credit, buy a house, improve the value, be able to pay them back all their money and keep the house for quote unquote free. And that was proof of concept.
Very cool. Okay, so some of my listeners are newbies. Let's remind them, what's the BRRRR concept you mentioned? Tell us what
Yeah.
that is.
BRRRR investing. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Now, why is that so important? It's because it allows you to pick up assets for quote unquote free. And what I mean by that is you can buy an asset, improve the value, and then instead of selling it, you can refinance your existing money out of it so that you can keep that money that you had and still own the asset that starts cash flowing and generating you cash, passive income, equity, tax write-offs, all the things.
What did your parents say when you said, "Hey, here's your HELOC money back"?
They were pretty happy. They said, okay, thank you. And thank you for the interest that you paid me. And thank you for the 50% equity that you gave me in the cash flowing rental. And I was like, you're welcome.
But it worked, right? And I think when you have no money, you've got to get creative on how to get over that, how to push over the first domino. And Mike and I've been there before ourselves going, how are we going to do this? We know how to play the game, but how do we actually get in it? And you did that. So, but you've got to have some folks that are willing to work with you, and they've got to have some equity or some cash or some kind of instrument that will let you do it, which is great. So that's good. So you started with the duplex, and now you're at 178 doors, right?
Yeah.
Boy,
Yep.
that's a big number.
79 last week, but yeah.
79. Oh, you closed on something last week. Good for you. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, so walk us through it. You got the duplex, you paid your parents back. Then what?
So then I said, all right, let's just do this again. This worked out so great. And so then I bought what I lovingly refer to as the Purple Palace. And I hate that
Okay.
house. I hate that house so much. But I bought a deal from a wholesaler. It was decked out purple from the entire outside, like just purple siding, purple garage. The garage was falling off the house. Like it had been vacant for 3+ years. And so anyways, bought the house. I then started doing the work with a buddy, just like I had done on the last house. The last house took me 6 months after work to fix up the house and do the things. I did it all while I had a full-time job. And so I started doing the same thing. And then the city inspector knocks on the door and says, "What are you doing?" And I told him, I was like, "Yeah, I'm just remodeling the house, making it a better community." And he goes, "Okay, where's your permit?" And I go, "What's a permit?" And so then he educated me on what a permit was. He also educated me on what a red tag is. And so he red tagged my entire house. All of the permits that I had to get were now 4 times as costly because I was shut down. And all of the rehab that I was planning on doing, my $20,000 rehab, skyrocketed to a $60,000 rehab because I had to hire contractors to do the work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The Purple Palace. Isn't it funny that the biggest pain points in our business always get little nicknames? That's what I find. Now, was the Purple Palace purple on the inside as well, not just the siding in the garage? Was it like purple appliances too?
No, thankfully, no. I mean, the inside was basically black and brown, just awfully dirty and terrible.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah, it probably would
gosh.
have been better if it was purple inside, but
The
yeah,
Purple Palace. That's a new one for me. I haven't heard that one. That's good.
yeah. But
Okay,
it
so
was, I will say, it was a blessing because even though that rehab that I thought was going to take me 2 months, it ended up taking me 11 months to complete because I had to hire the contractors, and the contractors cost so much more. But what it was, why it was a blessing is because I learned the skill of delegation and hiring. And so once I was forced to work with contractors, and by the way, the first couple weren't great. That's why it took 11 months.
mm,
um, but once I learned how to work with contractors, that really opened up my portfolio to say, oh my gosh, if I don't have to do the work, now I can start doing like one of these a month, or actually like two of these a month. And then it just became, okay, now I'm just restrained on how many deals I can get.
and that's how you got to 178.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just went from there to 178 instantly. There was
No.
nothing in between.
So how long have you been doing all this? Like when you first bought your first duplex, how long ago was all that?
So I started in 2018
Okay.
and it started slow. I mean, first duplex and first house was 2018. The refinance happened in 2019, and then the Purple Palace happened in 2019. I ended up doing 3 deals in 2019, all burrs. And then in 2020, that was when I set up a direct to seller system. And that was when I did 22 deals that year. And 2021 is when we did 25 deals plus 3 multifamily deals. And 2022, we did another 20+ deals and 4 multifamily deals. And then 2023 was a little slower. It was a multifamily deal. We quit single family for a second, built the management company to service it, and that just took so long. And then 2024, here we are. We've done, I think we've got 12 deals under contract right now, including a 44 unit. So,
From 0 to 178 in 6 years, that ain't bad, Wyatt. Oh my goodness. That's like exponential. There it is. That's the rich dad, poor dad lesson right there, which is pretty amazing. But you said a couple things. Let's go back into it. Direct to seller. Can you tell us what that is?
absolutely. If you're tired of looking at, for direct to sellers, just getting things off market. I was so tired and frustrated because I kept buying things from on market or wholesalers, and it was tough to make the margin, right? Like if you want to do a burr deal because you can't afford to put money and keep money in deals because you're a broke 20-year-old, like I'm pointing at me if you're listening online. Like I was a broke 20-year-old that couldn't afford to leave capital in deals. And so I really had to be selective of the deals that I could buy because I would have to be able to refinance all of my capital back out to be able to continue to keep these things rolling, right? And so the
Gotcha.
direct to seller what allowed me access to better deals. Now, was it a lot more work? Heck yeah, it was. And do we spend a lot of money in marketing to get these deals? Heck yeah, we do.
I bet you did.
But
Yeah.
but it was rewarding in the back end. That's what one of the reasons I was able to unlock, larger deal volume a year.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about your management company. You mentioned it that you put it in place and got it going for all these doors that you've got, and you're adding more doors even now, which is amazing. But let's talk about how did you start up your even with the duplex, and then you kept going just in 2018 as you got started. I'm imagining that you were self-managing, and then at some point it just got to be too much, and then that's how the management company came about. But walk us through that. How did you say no? I can't go unclog a toilet, at 2 in the morning anymore. I like how did that all? What was the tipping point for you?
Yeah. So my students ask me this a lot, like, when do I stop self-managing? When do I start self-managing? And so the answer is it depends, right? And I can just share my perspective. So what happened for me was I was younger in my 20s, building my portfolio. So I had some time, right? I was making a good amount of money in my job. I had flexibility within my job. And so I was able to do this real estate thing on the side. And I was self-managing up until I had 15 units. It was doable because I was very selective of my tenants. I had good properties in good areas. And so there was less upkeep, right? And so if you have a good product, you have good tenants, there's going to be less calls. And it was doable with just me kind of doing it on the side with my contractor list. I say contractor list because I have never to this day changed out a toilet. I don't know how. um, but there are people that know how that I can call, and they're great. And now my team does. But so all of that to say, it depends on where you're at. Like, you're going to learn real estate better if you can self-manage a little bit because you're going to have more control. You're going to know who's in your property. It's going to be better. No one cares like you do. However, if you're in your, upper 30s, mid 40s, 50s, then you're probably making great money in your job. You probably have a family, and maybe it doesn't make sense for you to self-manage. Maybe it makes sense to pay the cost of the property manager and know that you're going to have a little bit lower quality because you have a life.
Well, let's talk about where your rentals are. I mean, you were able to self-manage. Let's face it, that all these rentals are in your backyard, right? If they were in New York City, that would have been very different. Obviously, you can't self-manage, at least not the trouble calls and things like that. And so all of your doors and all your markets are right in your geographic area. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Within 60 miles of Omaha, everything.
Well, and I think that's a key here is that there's a lot of folks that are getting into real estate, or they're inheriting real estate from loved ones, and they don't know what to do with them, or they're not geographically nearby them at all. And so I see this a lot on the social media with landlords going, "Oh my gosh, I just inherited this. I'm, 3 time zones away. What do I do?" And in your case, you were able to just self-manage, and then you've created a management company. Tell me, why didn't you just hire a property manager in your local area?
So we did
Okay.
at first. Um, and so once I got into multifamily in 21 is when we started hiring management companies. And so the first management company we bought a 23 unit. We kept the management company in place that was running it. We figured it would be a smooth transition. Well, it turns out there's a reason the seller wanted to sell it anyways, because the management company was doing a poor job. And
Oh.
so we ended up firing that management company. We interviewed a bunch of management companies. We hired the best one that we thought would do a good job. And they did okay, but the performance was very clear. The rest of my portfolio that I had self-managed up until the new manager was way outperforming the managed manager. And so it became clear. And so that was when I just got tired of mediocrity within management, and I knew that it can be done better. And so that was when I decided to do the hardest thing I've ever done. And I quit my very good W-2 job and started a property management company when I was, I made the decision. We'll just say that. I did it. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done to this day, but I wouldn't be standing here in front of you if I wasn't able to get through scaling a management company, or at least get to where we are now. And yeah, it was hard, but it was
Oh,
fun.
no, no kidding. No kidding. Okay, so let me translate. W-2 job in the US is like a 9 to 5 job that you're getting paid employment income. In Canada, that would be a T4 for all my Canadian listeners up there. So I just want to let you know. So he had an employment income source, a job, and then he quit to start the management company. Now, where did you even start? Was there a book that you read to get, like, is there a managing properties for dummy book that maybe I need to grab too? I mean, where'd you even start?
Yeah, so Brandon Turner wrote the book How to Manage Properties way back in the day. So I had read that, before I started managing my first duplex that I moved into and lived in. And so I started with that. Eventually, you have to get a CRM. So we implemented Appfolio is our CRM that we use, and then just kind of struggled through it. And I mean, full transparency, I struggled through it for the first year. Like it was tough. It was like drinking through a fire hose because I was ill-equipped as a business owner. I was a fantastic employee. I was amazing at my job. I thought everyone was like me. Just leave me alone. Don't over corporate. They're going to work hard. They're going to be transparent. Just like don't breathe down their neck. And so, you know what I wasn't great at? Setting up systems, hiring, managing people, holding people accountable, all the businessy things I was not great at. I was a growth guy, and I still love. That's my unique ability, is growing things and keeping things moving forward. But the managing side was very difficult, and I struggled for a year. I mean, I had a guy. It was until I hired a consultant that things changed. And so
Okay.
I hired a consultant, a business consultant that came in and restructured what I was doing, gave me some systems and some policies, and then I started hiring, getting rid of the wrong people and hiring the right people for the right seat. And then my life has drastically changed since.
That's amazing. I know you coined this the last time we talked. You said that you paid the learning tax.
Mm.
And I really like that saying that you paid the learning tax. How are you feeling in your management business now? Do you think the systems and everything working, everything's kind of stabilized, or are you still coming out of it?
Yeah, great question. So I just had coffee with my director today, and we are both so feeling the relief of pressure, as we are performing the best we've ever had. We're outpacing, any other company here with our leasing times, our renovation times, our pricing for unit turns and maintenance. Like everything is just finally getting to the metrics that we want, and we're really clicking now that we've got the right people working in the right spots.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Purple Palace, because I just like saying that word. I think that's pretty fun, Purple Palace. But the red tag, the stop work from the city on the Purple Palace, is something that really scares newbies into the real estate business. One of the most listened to podcasts in my show is After the Fact Permits, and really confrontation with government agencies. People either buying something that they know is going to need an after the fact permit, or getting into a situation like you where you were issued a stop work. What are some of the things that you would, coach other real estate investors going into this, knowing that this is a big fear, this is a real fear? How can you help other people maybe not learn the lesson quite so bad as you did on the Purple Palace?
Well, there's twofold to that. So the first thing is, know that the city, in most cases, wants people to renovate properties to make it better, right? Like they want to work with you. We're all on the same side here because we all want a better community, right? And hopefully you as a real estate investor have a heart and are doing this for more than just money, right? So that, number one. Number two, for the newer investor, and like my students that I coach, like stay away from large rehabs. You stick to cosmetic, quick flips, quick updates, because it will save you from the brain damage, right? Like do not start with a large rehab, because that is a large learning tax to pay.
Right. Because the longer your hold time is, I mean, you were budgeting on 2 months and you doing the work, and it ended up being 11 months, way longer hold time, and probably very expensive money. And so that was way more expensive than you anticipated. And yeah, the learning tax is going to be way higher. That's pretty crazy. Now let's one final question for you. Let's go all the way back to you as the 20-year-old, no money, trying to get into real estate and rentals. Do you think money is the biggest roadblock, or do you think it's something else of people getting into real estate?
So I think the biggest frustration for people not getting into real estate is they just don't know where to start. There's so many barriers to entry as far as it takes money, it takes deals, it takes education, not knowing what a good deal is. And so if you had to wrap up like all of those things as far as like what that truly is, it's actually education. And
Okay.
so it doesn't sound like it. You don't feel like that when you're sitting on the other side. You're like, no, I'm frustrated because it's unclear, right? But if you have education, then you can learn and get really crystal clear on what is the right strategy for you, because there's 7 million different strategies in real estate, right? There's flipping, there's wholesaling, there's burring, there's multifamily, storage, office. Like there's, you could be a realtor, you could be a wholesale, like you can do all the things, right? But what is the right thing for you? Well, it depends on what financially you're looking to do. Are you trying to build a business? Are you trying to build net worth? Are you trying to shelter from taxes? Are you trying to build cash flow? There's different strategies. And so the clarity is what people lack. And there's so much information out there for what to do. But in my experience, it really takes someone listening to you to understand what your situation is, to then point you and get you clear and what the actions you need to take are.
Gotcha. Well, and you started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Is that the best place to start, maybe?
Mm. Yes. If you haven't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, start there so you get the main concept. It really doesn't have much to do with real estate, but it will give you the financial understanding of why real estate.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Wyatt, if a listener wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
So check out WyattSimon.com. That is where my coaching program is. So that is where I help people gain clarity and be able to take action in the real estate space. Wyatt Simon, WyattSimon.com. And you can see there's a bunch of free resources on the website that I've created so that beginners can get started and gain clarity for free.
That is so cool. Wyatt, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been really, really fun having you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jennifer. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Hey, listener out there, if you enjoyed the show today, the biggest compliment you can give me is by leaving a review so people who need to find my podcast can indeed find me. Thanks, Wyatt.
Thank you.
Okay, hang on.